Hello there. So today we're talking about physical quantities and units, and we're mainly discussing length, area, and volume. This is going to be very helpful if you're starting off with physics, and I'll try to be as much intuitive as I could be. So first off, physical, it comes from the word physics. It relates to physics, which means nature. Okay, so it is embedded in the universe. We didn't come up with this. It's always been there, like mass, like temperature. All these things have always been there in the universe, okay? So I'm not talking about maybe population. I'm not talking about currency, okay? These are not physical. And quantities, they can be measured, okay? So physical quantities. So quantities that exist in nature, it's always been there, and they can be measured. So some examples here. You have speed, you can measure speed, okay? You have time, you have mass, electric current, and temperature. All these are physical quantities. They can be measured and they have always been there, okay? Now that we've discussed the meaning of physical quantities, the meaning of a unit. Let's say you want to make a cake, all right? And I know the recipe. And you ask me how much sugar should I add? And I tell you, okay, add a lot of sugar. Add a lot of sugar. So there's a problem here because my a lot, most likely it's not like your a lot. Okay, so maybe I'm on a diet. So my a lot in this case will be like 2 teaspoons or something. Your a lot could be 1 cup. Okay, this is very, very subjective. And in physics or in science, we want your experiment to be like my experiment, okay? We want a specific number, specific value for velocity if we're launching a rocket into space, all right? So here comes the meaning of unit or the idea of unit. A unit is a standardized value or measure that we compare the amount of quantity to. Again, remember the recipe. I could have told you to add 2/3 of a cup. 2/3 of a cup. Now you can add this amount and you will end up with a cake that looks like mine, that tastes like mine. Okay, and everybody could do the same thing and they will have the same cake too. All right, because now we're using a unit. Okay, it's a cup. What if you don't have a cup? If you don't have a cup, you can use an equal amount of another unit. So maybe 10 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons of sugar. This will be equal to 2/3 of a cup in this case. All right, so units can equal other units, parts of other units, or other values of other units. Now, again, remember, when we measure things and we use units, we're basically comparing the amount that we have to the unit that we very well know. Okay, so in this case, for example, when I say that the mass of this bag of apples is 4 kilograms, I mean this. This is what I mean. It's 4 times this thing called kilogram that I know very well. Okay, I've been introduced to kilogram before. I know how it feels like to hold a kilogram in my hand, and I know it very well. All right. What about the height of the bag? The height of the bag could be 40 centimeter. So when I say 40 centimeter, I mean 40 of this unit. Okay, this unit called centimeter. So 40 of these units. So now let's talk about length. Length is basically the distance between 2 points in space, all right? So these 2 points could be on a map, and in this case, this is called distance, or the 2 ends of an object, and in this case, it's called length. There's not much to say here. You already know what a length is. Only one tiny thing to add is the prefix. Okay, the idea of a prefix. This is what we use to make a bigger unit of the original unit that we have or a smaller unit of the original unit that we have. The most commonly used prefixes are these. Okay, so you have giga, mega, kilo. Okay, so kilo, thousand, like kilogram, centi, okay, so remember, like cent, okay, 1 cent, or century, milli, like millennia, okay, thousand, all right, 1 part of 1,000, milli, and centi and kilo. Now it's time to talk about area. So when I ask you to find the area, I want you to tell me how many squares. Okay, so this is our new standard unit. This is our standard unit when we talk about area. It's a square unit. I'm trying to find the amount of these squares, the number of these squares that we can use to cover the whole surface that we have. So here, for example, this could be even half or parts of the squares that we have. Okay, the squares that we are using. And again, it's, for example, 1 kilometer squared will be 1,000 meter times 1,000 meter. And in this case, remember that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So 10 centimeter, 10 centimeter, 10 centimeter, 100 centimeter. When I ask you to find out the number of square centimeters in a square meter, it's very different because 1 meter equals 100 centimeter. That's very good. Okay, 100 centimeter. But each of these centimeters, each one, it has a whole column behind it. Okay, a whole column of 10 centimeters behind it. So you will end up with 100 centimeter times 100 centimeters. All right, so remember that this is 10 centimeter. Each part here is 10 centimeter. Okay, so this is 10 centimeter, 100 centimeter. All right, so the end result is 10 to the power 4. All right, because it's multiplied, it's squared. The unit itself is squared. All right, so when you're trying to find out the square meter, you're basically trying to square this. And finally, we want to talk about volume. All right, so volume is the 3-dimensional space that the object occupies. All right, so if you have a room, the room has a specific capacity. If you have a container, it has specific capacity. This means that you have a limit to the amount of objects that you can fit in there. It has a specific capacity. All right, so how do you find this capacity, or how do you find the space each object will occupy or occupies? You have this physical quantity, which is volume. All right, so these objects that you want to find the volume of, they could be regular. This is a cylindrical shape. It looks like a cube inside. Okay, for example, it looks like a cube. This one is also a cylindrical, but it's huge. This one is irregular. So it could be anything. All right, and you can use any of these units. The cubic meter, this is how big this thing is. It's a cubic meter. 1 meter times 1 meter times 1 meter. Or cubic centimeter, 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter times 1 centimeter. And a cubic millimeter. Okay, 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter. Okay, so for example, this cubic meter, you can use this to measure huge containers. Liquefied natural gas, you will use cubic meter in this case to measure the volume inside, okay, the capacity or the amount of natural gas, the volume of the natural gas that you have. All right, for example, this one, the fridge, usually they use cubic foot, and maybe this one you can use cubic centimeter or liters. So the question here before we end this class, how many cubic centimeters are there in a cubic meter? And also the number of cubic millimeters in a cubic meter, okay? I want you to leave the answer down below in the comment section. I'll see you again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hopefully share, comment, and thank you. See you again next time. Bye.